Hi everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick with the Atlanta Small Business Show. Thanks so much for joining me today. Today we are in the middle of the coronavirus and it's got everybody going every single which way, trying to figure out how to hold on to their business. Is it a good time to even start a small business right now? A lot of plans have been put on hold, we know that. So today we're joined by Beate Chalette, who is an entrepreneur, keynote speaker, and author of the international bestseller, Happy Women, Happy World, How to Go from Overwhelmed to Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jim. I'm so excited to be back, and I can't wait to get some of this advice out in the hands of the small business owners of Atlanta.
Yeah, great. So let's kind of jump right in here. There's so many people out there right now that that may be feeling like this could be the end of my business, right? I mean, people just want to, when they get up in the morning, take the covers and bring them right back over their head and say, I think I'll just stay in bed until this passes. But the reality is that's not a day or two. This thing could go on for months, right? So
Absolutely.
What advice do you have for them?
Well, so, this is literally my seventh disaster, believe it or not. I did the count from floods, fires, earthquakes, September 11th, a tsunami, and now I'm adding a pandemic to it.
Yeah.
So my first advice would be there are really very specific things that happen in sequence. So the first thing for any business owner right now, Jim, is pay attention to survival. Yeah. Your first call to order is how are you going to be making it through?
Right.
The second thing you want to pay attention to is where are the opportunities? Because as you can see now, some of these transportation logistics companies are seeing an unprecedented surge on their services.
Right.
Medical companies, manufacturers that can retooling. So where is the opportunity? And the third one then is recovery planning. Because in all of this, you got to make sure that once the curve goes back up, what's your plan for recovery? How do you bring people back? Who is going to be the first one to hire? Where are you going to be spending your money? How are you using marketing? So that's the cadence of disaster recovery.
Yeah, that's for sure. So let's kind of unpack that a little bit. There's no question that, in fact, the bill, as we sit here today, the bill was just passed through the House. So it looks like there's going to be some relief coming from the federal government in this $2 trillion package that they're putting out. And I think $350 billion allocated for small businesses. And that's great news, right?
Access to money is absolutely critical. That's my first smart strategy. Make sure you got the financial aspects in place.
Sure. In fact, you have 5 strategies that you're going to share with us today. What are the other 4?
Right to the point. Well, the first one, as I said, is make sure you're taking care of money. Mm-hmm. The second part is leadership and really stepping into leadership. And what I mean by that, a leader is somebody who takes responsibility and action. Right. A bad leader is somebody who's blaming everybody else. So leadership is really right now critical. And when we look at the leaders that are really standing out, like the governor Cuomo is amazing. Yeah. Our governor here in California, Newsom, is doing a great job. Our mayor Garcetti is doing a great job. I'm sure there's quite a few people that are really stepping up. And what do we like about these people? We like that they're communicating clearly, precisely, honestly.
Right.
They don't make up facts. They just tell us this is what's to be expected.
Right.
So leadership for a small business owner is exactly like that.
Yeah, for sure. And that's so important now, right? I mean, we want leaders that are going to tell us the way it is. I mean, the truth. I mean, that rather, because we can deal with that. All of us as entrepreneurs have gotten where we are as entrepreneurs and small business owners because we can deal with the truth. Sometimes it's always not easy to take, but at least we know that it is what it is, and we can deal with that, right? So right now, the communication's got to be clear, concise, and truthful, right?
That's exactly correct.
Yeah.
I think that we have a tendency to try to whitewash things because we are concerned about hurting other people's feelings. But there's so much fear and uncertainty right now that I really believe from a leadership perspective, it is much better to just say, I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. I'm going to do my best. And the best I can do is I'm going to tell you all what, where I am, what I'm trying to do, what my ultimate goal is, to bring everybody back to work, to get the business back up to where it was before, and then continue to grow it. But I don't know how I'm going to get there. I'm going to need all you to hang in there.
Right.
And as soon as I have information, I will tell you. That's really all that's required right now.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I don't think you have to have the cure for it, not the disease per se, but the cure for the immediate problem, with the business. It's just, to your point, just tell them, here's where I'm at. This is what I can do. I love it, and it's so true. Rather than making things up or telling them everything's going to be okay and everything's fine, because at the end of the day, we don't know that everything's going to be okay or fine, right?
No, and we don't know how long it's going to go.
Right.
It could go 2 weeks, it could go another month, it could go another 2 months, it could go another 3 months.
That's right.
And that depends on how responsible each one of us is going to be about this, safe at home initiative.
That's right.
That is now, in 22 states, and I'm sure it's going to continue to increase. Your personal responsibility is required right now. It's personal leadership as well.
Right. And I loved what you said by, get going on these things, because so many small business owners can get easily shell shocked, where they sit, in their office or their living room, their home, and just go, what just happened? My business is completely shut down. Don't have a pity party too long, right? Get online and make applications for the SBA loans. Reach out to your bankers to find out, how do we get the recovery and the relief for the payroll of our employees, because that will be out there as well. And there's a lot of great programs that can come from this that can really help you stay in business and then thrive when this is over, right?
Absolutely. And, again, I think you're making a very important point here that is really valid to dive in deeper, is it's very easy to get paralyzed by fear.
I agree.
But, but again, the one thing that I can tell you for absolute certain, as, again, somebody who's been through this 7 times, is that there is going to be a recovery. I mean, we've recovered from wars, we recovered from a horrible AIDS epidemic.
Right.
There's been, people have emerged from Ebola, malaria. People have emerged from the Holocaust, right? So there's always an after something. So you have to have faith that actually is going to happen as well, and prepare for that.
That's right.
I mean, be realistic, but prepare for the future.
That's exactly right. Well, let's continue on your list of 5 smart strategies.
So let's go to strategy number 3, and that is what we've been talking about, mindset.
Okay.
So a healthy mindset is critical. So one of the things I do, Jim, and I don't know if you do this as well, but I've gotten a little addicted to podcasts. And there's a couple of podcasts out there that are really good about mindset, a positive mindset. And so when I fall into that funk, I, put on my headphones, I go for a walk around the block, and I listen to just, how can you stay really, really diligent for staying in a positive mindset? We're healthy, we're here, we're talking, we have a home, we have food. We're probably going to be surviving this. My mom's healthy.
Sure.
Gary's healthy. The kids are healthy. So focus on the bright side of things. And and what might be helpful in the mindset part, Jim, is how we always talk about everything is so fast and we don't have any time for anything, and we don't ever see our children. You probably see more of your children than you've seen in months right now.
That's right.
So enjoy that.
That's right. There's no question about it. This has forced all of us to just slow down in life, right? And it's actually forcing us to stop and smell the roses, right? Those roses are in our house, luckily, because we can't leave our home. But nevertheless, how many of us sit in our beautiful homes and we say, we don't enjoy this house the way that we put the pool in, but we never go in the pool, so my wife and I have found that we're going into rooms right now in our house going, how come we don't spend more time in this sunroom or out on this patio or what have you? So I think you're right. There's a lot of good that can come from it. Not that that's what we had in mind, but it's kind of the unintended situation, right? So.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. So keep going on the list.
All right. So number 4.
Before you do, I want to ask, because I know sorry to interrupt you, but I know the writers or the readers rather, and the viewers will write in and say, who does she listen to on the podcast to motivate her? Who are you listening to these days?
Okay, so there is one podcast that I don't think I can't actually say the title properly because it's an Your Brain,
Okay.
a podcast.
Okay.
And it's by a
What is
woman
the what is
called
the first letter of the dot dot dot?
an F.
An F. Okay.
And
We get it. We get it.
and she talks about really how to, unscrew your brain
Right.
and get very clear. It's very, neurolinguistic and mental programming. Then I listened to JV Crum the Third, and he has a podcast called Unconscious Millionaire,
Okay.
the Conscious Millionaire.
Okay.
And then Dana Wild, and
Okay.
it's mindset for entrepreneurs. So those are my three favorite ones.
That's great. That's great. My wife and I listen to Mel Robbins in the morning.
I love Mel.
And she is just fantastic, and she really does a great job. But you're right, to fill your mind and your body and your spirit with positive information like that every day before you get into that funk, you get into your office, or your home in this case, is very, very important, right?
Yes, I think it's better than watching the zombie apocalypse and Contagion. I think
that's right.
It's probably way better for your mindset right now to stay in a positive
That's right.
mindset,
Or to be watching
I mean.
CNN or Fox News, that's nothing but just, it's a count of how many are affected and how many didn't make it. I mean, it really, really is a terrible situation, but, it can really screw your mind up, So.
Right.
Yeah.
And that brings us to strategy number 4, which is taking care of business.
Right.
And this strategy is about being very diligent about where the opportunities are popping up now. So we are now very concerned about having enough toilet paper for ourselves and having enough for I had to throw the toilet paper in, Jim.
Why is there a shortage of toilet paper suddenly? What's that got to do with this disease? I don't know what it is.
I think in about 10 years, they'll go and say, remember 10 years ago when this crazy thing with the toilet paper happened that nobody could figure out?
It's so
and
crazy.
Now there's this psychological breakthrough.
Right.
So taking care of business means that there's something people need right now. So what is that? So we've seen in our community here that women that have a sewing machine are now asking all their neighbors for fabrics, and they start sewing masks that they are now giving to the local doctors, the emergency rooms. While they're not perfect, but it is something.
Right.
There's a place that I found hand sanitizer. That's a place that orders in bulk.
Yeah.
So I got a gallon of hand sanitizer, right? So suddenly a business that was sort of a cute Etsy business suddenly is in the middle of this demand that they didn't even know they had.
That's right.
So think about, as a business owner, what are these opportunities right now that are arising? And the government has actually put out several of these lists of urgent supplies. So you're not helpless.
Right.
So retool the machinery, make people work from home, whatever that might be, but things are needed right now. Delivery drivers, backroom people that are stocking stuff.
Yeah.
Where can you kind of come in? Taking care of business doesn't stop because we have a catastrophe.
Yeah, there's no question about it. There will be opportunity, and there'll be a lot of money made from this, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, I don't want somebody to say, "Oh my gosh, how could you think about making money in a time like this?" But our audience are entrepreneurs and small business owners. They go right there. I mean, immediately, right? I saw somebody selling T-shirts recently that said, "I am surviving Corona," right? So they saw an opportunity to say, well, listen, maybe I can make a buck because I'm not doing my normal business right now. And, is that a terrible thing? I don't think so. It is what it is.
Good point, Jim. So I think there's two sides to this. So I'm going to give you something that I did for free. So a friend of mine who happens to be a vice president at Janssen, and Janssen is the biopharma company for Johnson & Johnson. Huge company. They make a ton of money. But it's a big company, so things, take time to be approved and whatever. And he says, Beate, I know how good you are with diversity of thought talks. I need my team to pull together. It's the team working on the COVID-19 vaccine and treatment. And so he says, can I ask you to come for 20 minutes, do a town hall for the entire team that's working on it, get them fired up, and make sure that we really want all of their voices to be heard. I didn't charge for that.
Right.
I showed up because if that's my contribution that I can make.
Right.
I'll be more than happy to make that contribution.
If you're
that
helping
doesn't mean
if you're helping with the cure, absolutely, right? That's great.
If somebody gets fired up with an idea that they wouldn't have otherwise made, which of course I would never know about, but just that, and it made me feel good.
Sure.
That doesn't mean that I'm not offering emergency strategy sessions for anybody who's listening and say, hey, if you need 90 minutes to figure this out, call me. I have a great deal in place right now. It doesn't mean that you have to stop making money, but it means that, there's one part you do for the greater good.
Right.
And to be part of the solution, and one part to make sure you're taking care of business.
That's right. And also it should be said that that company and that individual that called you is never going to forget that, right?
Yes.
And it goes a long way, for future speaking and such, consultant work and what have you. So did you get to number 5 yet on your list?
No, number 5 is managing remotely. And so I have some, I've been managing a remote team of 10 people, which is literally from Armenia to Toronto.
Oh my gosh!
And
wow.
So I just want to give some very, very clear tips how to manage remotely.
Yeah, for sure.
You need a project management software, either like an Asana, a Basecamp, or a Trello.
Okay.
Because it allows you to assign tasks to make sure where everybody's at.
Okay.
You need a cloud server where all the documents are, so everybody works off the same set of documents.
Okay.
And then finally, you need something like what we are doing right now, which is a video conferencing service.
Right.
Because you need to be able to have that one-on-one, because nothing motivates people like showing up and having that personal connection. So those are the most important parts of my 5 strategies, my 5 smart strategies to survive a disaster.
Yeah. That's fantastic. We will have those 5 strategies online here and under the video that's playing right now. It'll be on our homepage, so you can click and take a look at those. And then, from there, what other recommendations do you have for small business owners during this time?
I think the most important thing, Jim, as a small business owner, is to remember that this is going to be a wild ride.
Yeah.
And you have no idea where this ride is going.
Yeah.
Flexibility, personal health, balance is critical. This is a time to nurture relationships, not to grow the business, except you are in one of those, categories that is in high demand right now.
For sure.
But that's 20%. That's not 80%.
Right.
And so it will not always be like that. And you have to remind yourself, just like I made it through, September 11th and all these disasters, there is going to be an after. Prepare for the after while you're surviving the now. That would be my most valuable tip I possibly could think of.
It's a great tip, because I think we have a tendency to forget that there's going to be an after. We get ourselves so tied up in the now and what's happening that we forget that this too shall pass, and there's going to be a time that things settle back down, but it's just making it through with a clear head and to your point, taking the 5 smart strategies that you've suggested here. I think they're all great. As a small business owner myself, I agree with every one of them, and some of them I have to do now that you mention it. but nevertheless, it's getting yourself in touch with content like this, though, and staying focused on it, right? Because it's so easy to pass the TV if you're in your house working from your home and seeing CNN or Fox News or whoever you subscribe to there, and just stopping and just getting, oh my gosh, it immobilizes you when you see that, right? It's not a good thing to do.
Well, the Netflix escape strategy is definitely alive and well, and it is scary to look at the reality of what we're dealing with right now, especially if you don't know what the reality really is.
That's right.
But it's never happened before. That's the word novel.
Yeah.
Virus. That's what it suggests. It's never been here before.
Right.
So just trust that we have what it takes as a country and as people to survive this.
That's right.
And as a small business owner, you are agile. Yeah. You have the agility to act quickly. You don't have the big machine like a large corporation have.
That's right.
You can do things quickly. Make that your biggest advantage.
I totally agree. Beate Chalette, thank you so much for joining us. Entrepreneur, keynote speaker, and author of the international bestseller, Happy Woman, Happy World, How to Go from Overwhelmed to Awesome. And we can see why you're awesome. So thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
Thanks.